Welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton-Kawartha Lakes Brock. It is great to have you back, and we will be back with new content every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Because of this content, it is good stuff. Let me tell you, we ask that you like, comment, share, subscribe to this program. Help us push back against the ever-moving Liberal agenda because, as we said before the campaign and somewhat during it, there are people in your social media networks that might be open to hearing this conservative message, might not be getting it from the mainstream media, and that's how we can ensure that Erin O'Toole is the next Prime Minister of Canada whenever that next election comes with this content. Now, we did take a bit of a break during the campaign. There was just issues with time and getting people from different time zones on the campaign, away from door knocking, so we are back. And in our first episode, I'm going to welcome my next door neighbor, the Member of Parliament-elect for Peterborough-Kawartha, Michelle Ferreri. Welcome and hello. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Jamie. It's great to be here. And I'm going to preface the whole thing with I'm sorry that I'm in such a sort of dingy, dark place. It's we're just getting settled. Moments before this interview started, I walked through the doors of this office. So you have to pardon the dinginess. I promise next time you have me on, it'll be bright and colorful and full of local art.
Well, I guess we won't make a comment about that. Well, congratulations. You defeated Miriam Monsef. That is a big achievement considering she was a cabinet minister. She was one of the stars in the Justin Trudeau portfolio, so to speak. How did you find that experience? How did you do it? I'm sure you've been asked a million times.
Yeah, I have been asked this question a lot. And I guess, my answers kind of changed as I've thought more about it. I think really what it comes down to, Jamie, and I think you have a really strong hold on this with your riding and doing what you've accomplished. It's trust, with the constituents. It's knowing they know who you are and there's a trust. One of the big pieces, I've obviously been in the public eye for over 22 years and done a lot of service for the community, been a major advocate for a lot of things, primarily mental health, which is one of the reasons why I ran, because our conservative platform is the best when it comes to mental health. But a lot of the other issues was the disillusioned voter. There's a lot of people out there, this, and a lot of people do, they don't even vote. And I've been a huge advocate for years and years. You have to execute your right to vote. You have to execute your voice. You're not allowed to complain. You're not allowed to be an armchair critic if you're not taking part. And I think, a lot of people, there is a saying, the older you get, the more conservative you get. And I think it's a lot of people who often went from the public sector or started to be a business owner or entrepreneurs, which is what I was, really start to see the value of conservatism and what it is and why it's the best approach to having, a healthy economy, socially conscious. And so that message at the door, I think, was really critical. Obviously, we had an amazing team, this too, Jamie, without volunteers, without people on the ground who believe in you, right? It's kind of funny because it's switched a little bit, right? So for my whole life, my business, for example, is marketing, social media. That's what I ran. I ran a social media marketing campaign. And so what I always did was I told business owners, don't you tell everybody how great you are. Let me do that for you. It has so much more meaning. So when I ran for this, it's not I don't like talking about myself. I like to promote what other people have to offer. I like to share their stories. I love to be a mediator. I love to be a facilitator. I love to be a voice. And so a lot of the community helped me, and they really stepped up and shared why I was the best person and the most qualified for this position. So they were amazing. I had an amazing team behind me.
When you talk about communications and getting that conservative message across, you actually came up to me after our first caucus meeting in person, and that felt great. Let me tell you, to see everyone in person, to be able to be in the same room, that was absolutely amazing. And I think our goal is to continue to do that more often. But you had mentioned after the fact, and you posted it on social media, so I'm not really sharing secrets about what it is to be conservative, because we had a female, newly elected female member of parliament from Fort McMurray in northern Alberta in the caucus meeting with her baby that she had given birth to during the campaign. And that was pretty amazing, I think.
It was beyond amazing. And how this still isn't talked about, I'm not sure, like on a national and international stage. Like I believe it was the Prime Minister of Australia who breastfed in Parliament. I think it was her, and it reached international. Was it yes, New Zealand. Yeah. And it was international news, right? I would love to know if in the history books there has ever been a newborn baby in caucus for any party. And so I thought that was pretty remarkable, but that goes back to what you said to me, Jamie, about why do I think I was able to win? And I think what I did with my involvement in the community, I challenged what people think they know about conservatism. We have often a very bad PR. Like we don't tell people who we are, we show people, right? Like we don't, and I think the Liberals have a real stronghold over that. But the problem is that they're virtue signalers. They tell people all the things they want to hear, but there's nothing behind it in substance. Us conservatives, we actually do the work, but we don't tell people what we are. And so then people are really misinformed of what they think a conservative is. You know, when we had, how many times have you heard this? We were the first party to ever have, I believe, a Korean MP, a Black MP, a woman prime minister. You know, people love to think that we're this exclusive party, and we're not. That's actually what sets us apart from every other party, is that we are this inclusive party. So I think challenging people what they think conservative is really critical in the communications aspect moving forward. And that's why I posted that story about Layla Goodridge, because it's an amazing story of this woman who gave birth during a campaign and had a baby in caucus. Like I have 3 kids. I can't even imagine doing that. And it just shows you who we are. And nobody even batted an eye. Nobody, and everybody just picked up the baby. Yep, this is what we're doing. And that's what conservatives are. We just do the work and we get it done. And we have a lot of work to do, though, to change people's hearts and minds of what they think it is.
I agree. And also on the communications thing, you raised something very important, I think, about the virtue signaling. I think that goes to the National Truth and Reconciliation Day. What did the Prime Minister do on the first ever one, despite invitations from many First Nations communities, including the one in Kamloops, BC, was he took off to the beaches of Tofino.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. It's disgusting. And I think it's funny, you know, my kids, so I talk about my kids, and so obviously they've gotten immersed in politics and they're starting to see all of the things. And once you see it, it's very hard to unsee who he is and who he is as a leader. And it's blatant, you know, and he just kind of continues to say, sorry, I did that. And we seem to be, you know, Canada seems to say, okay, but it's not okay. And, you know, surfing on the first day ever of the holiday you created, and who didn't stop him? Jamie, who said, go surfing? Who on his staff didn't say?
Either his staff didn't see it or he didn't listen. Either way, I think both are terrible.
It's bad. It's really bad. And so, yeah, and I think there's a lot of trust that's already down there, like in terms of our relationship with Indigenous, and that just doesn't help at all. And it's terrible leadership.
Very much so. And on the economy, especially, we are seeing the Bank of Canada in the last year and a half print almost $400 billion out of thin air. We're spending approximately $424 million per day, more than what we have coming in the form of taxes. This is unsustainable on many levels. We ran a campaign on trying to restore fiscal sanity to Ottawa, but not only that, getting people back to work. And I'm sure you're seeing in your area a lot of employers that are being forced to cut hours, cut services, and in the most extreme cases, close down entirely because they aren't getting the labor needed to make their businesses succeed.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest issues at the door. I mean, the cost of living, the divisiveness, these were two of the biggest issues that I saw at the door. And speaking to small business owners, they're sinking, like they're literally sinking, and they can't get people to go to work. And then you have seniors struggling as well, the cost of the pumps, the cost of housing. Pierre did a video with me, Pierre Polyev did a video with me, I think it was my second week there in Ottawa. And inflation it crosses all boundaries. It doesn't matter. Like, this is when you have to sort of open your eyes and pay attention. Like, if you can't buy a house, or your kids can't buy a house, or your grandkids can't buy a house, if you can't afford your hydro, if you can't afford your food on the table, that's when you really have to start to pay attention, right? So what are we doing as a government as opposition to hold the government to account to do this? It's a huge issue. And we've had tons of restaurants in particular. They've actually just shut down. They didn't, they're just not opening up.
Well, I think August had the highest inflation in almost 20 years, which is absolutely incredible. And as you mentioned, everyone's feeling that, especially those struggling to get by. It's the hidden tax that many people don't see. It's that it's the price of everything, and it affects everything along the supply chain. And you're already seeing shortages in many areas, whether it be vehicles, appliances, you name it. This is getting very serious. And if people weren't paying attention before the election, I agree with you, they should be paying attention now. We talked about many times young people when they try to get into the workforce, the opportunities. And prior to the pandemic, there was always a talk about whether or not there'd be jobs and whether the economy was strong enough to get young people into the market. But now, with all the help wanted signs, I think for a young person, this is one of the best opportunities ever. Because if you're able to get into the workforce and you work hard, put your nose to the grindstone, by the time the others behind you start to realize they're coming into the workforce, you might be that manager or the supervisor, because you will have all this extra experience, and your employer will be seeing what a hard worker you are.
Oh yeah, and I think there has to be purpose there too, right? Like, I think the culture of society has shifted. I'm 42 years old. I worked every job that you could have, and you were the bottom of the barrel, and you knew you were the bottom of the barrel, and you went to work and you got it done. But I had a volunteer on my campaign. He's 22 years old, and he was, on CERB, and he left his job because he didn't like his job, and he's still collecting CERB, and he just doesn't have that motivation to go back to work. So how do you get people who aren't motivated to work when they're making more money staying at home? Like, that's a really big, I don't know if you found that was an issue where on your door knocking, but it was a really big issue here. And so how do you offset that? I mean, we had some great solutions. I loved our employer incentive program in the campaign, in the platform. It was great, because you got to keep that, economy 101, you got to keep jobs. If you don't have jobs, you can't print more money. Like, the jobs in the small businesses are keeping things going. So it's a tough one, but it all comes back to, for me personally, and I think you would agree here, Jamie, it's leadership, right? It's that top down, and it's not incentivizing people at all, our current government, to get to work.
All right, we only have a few minutes left. Maybe we could talk about your experience as a newly elected member of Parliament. What has it been like? What could you share with our viewers and listeners that they might not otherwise know about maybe someone who is newly elected, and what is going through your mind and on your agenda and your social media and the phone calls and emails, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, Jamie knows this firsthand, because Jamie has been an amazing support to me. He is my neighbor, and
coming back on the show more.
He was like the first person to even show up at my door and say, "Listen, it's going to be okay." And he handed me this big giant Bible of what to read and what to expect. And so I compared it to being a minor niner. And Jamie's in grade 12. He's the cool kid. He's been around the block. He knows what works and what doesn't work. But it is a lot of information, but it also is a real extension of what I've always done. And I think Jamie has said this beautifully. I believe this job to be customer service, and I believe this job to be serving your people. And to serve your people, you need to listen to your people. And I think that's what I did, for 20 plus years as a communication specialist and journalist. So I think it's a lot of that. And it's also in this role, it's listening to your seasoned MPs like Jamie, and it's sitting back and taking class, right? You are the minor niner. So just sit there and take class and listen as best as you can and try to do the things that work and really never lose sight that you were elected. That's a huge privilege. You were elected to represent your riding. So I want all of Canada to know who Peterborough-Kawartha is within the first, I don't know, now.
And just so everyone knows, I didn't pay her any money to say those nice things. I swear there's no exchange. She's been great. It's great to see someone in Peterborough-Kawartha on the blue side, and hopefully, we know Michelle's a strong voice. I always give the guests the final word, and you can talk about whatever you want. So I'll open it up to you, Michelle, the final word.
You probably know what I'm going to talk about.
I know
what everybody's going to listen to me preach about for the next however long till our next election: mental health. And COVID magnified it beyond our belief. It was always there. It just kind of uncovered it. And it will be my personal mission alongside the Conservative government to really address mental health in the way that it should be addressed, which is it is physical health. It is the same. And until we start to treat it as such, we're not going to move any further. So it is a big, big passion and commitment of mine to change how we talk about it, change how we treat it, and to get people on the same page that without mental health, we can't have an economy. We can't have people showing up to work. It's as fiscally responsible as anything else, and we need to be hugely investing in mental health.
I saw you talking during that caucus meeting. Todd Doherty from Northern British Columbia, who is a huge champion for mental health. He actually led the charge for that 3-digit hotline that the Liberals have yet to make any progress on, but something that's very important. So I'm glad to have another, I think we all are, to have another strong voice on the mental health file, and do appreciate everything you have done. And thank you for telling your moving crew to, take 5 while you did this podcast behind you. And,
it's just so fancy, isn't it? It's just so decorated here.
I was hoping during the switchovers when I was talking, a new piece of artwork went up on the wall as they worked behind you. But thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule and getting your constituency office set up.
You bet.
That is Michelle Ferreri from Peterborough-Kawartha, the newly elected member of parliament, taking out Miriam Monsef, that swath of red in the Kawarthas that we're glad to see gone. We do appreciate you coming and listening to the show, watching it. Of course, if you can't listen or watch it all right this second, you can download it later on platforms like Castbox, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you name it. It is out there. Remember, we need you to like, comment, subscribe, share this program, help us push back against that ever-moving liberal agenda. And as I mentioned, we are back with new content every single Tuesday. Michelle is taking a screenshot. That's awesome. Every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We do appreciate you coming back and joining us. As always, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That is the blueprint.